morning. Hi. How you doing?
Yeah, restarting. I'm well. How are you? Nice weekend.
Very good actually. I think I might have found a topic that I want to probably share with you. One of them. So, has it been a nice weekend? Yes, it's been a great weekend. I celebrated my 27th anniversary last Friday with the wonderful Julie, who I fell in love with at the age of 18.
I love that.
I'm 53 now, and she surprised me by creating this opportunity where we were going to go away on Friday, and we were just going to go some wild camping. So, you know, we knew where we were going. It's a place that we know, and it was perfectly allowed for us to go there. But we literally just went with our little old cooker and a couple of tarpaulins, a sleeping bag, a couple of bottles of wine, some beer, some cheese, some bread, a frisbee, no swimming trunks, no swimming costumes because it was skinny dipping in the river, and it was absolutely lovely, beautiful weather, and yeah, it was really lovely. So we had a fantastic time, and it just reminds me of the importance of checking in with those people that are most important, because I really felt somehow a sense of guilt actually after this amazing time that we had together. I've sort of not invested my time in the ones that I most care about. Yeah, so that's a very quick launch into how's your weekend. It was great,
But we could dive straight in, because actually I think, you know, a lot of people I've spoken to have shared the same message, which is actually during lockdown there has been this view that, first of all, people I think at the beginning felt they needed to be on call 24/7 because they wanted to show that they were working, because people had this fear of, you know, leadership and management saying, well, you're working from home, what are you doing? And then on top of that, actually, when you're sat on Zoom and MS Teams all day long, meeting after meeting after, actually, you don't move from your desk very much.
No.
And when you then add on to that, well, do we then start taking our family for granted?
Yeah.
I know that for me, I hear what you're saying, and I raise it and say, actually, we need to make a concerted effort to reconnect with people that we love and care about, because it's very easy when you're working from home for everything to become just one blur.
But hold on, it's madness, isn't it? Because we you know, you and I should be very much in tune and aware of all this sort of stuff. We hold ourselves up to be these coaches, you know, advisors of leaders about how they can be more productive, and we're saying, hold on a minute, we're forgetting to concentrate on the people we most care about. What are we falling in? What trap are we falling into here?
I think we're calling each other out on the fact that actually there's that sense of when I feel the need to ramp up, I invest all that energy, and because I'm at home, it doesn't feel like I'm really maybe working. So an extra hour here or an extra hour there, and by the time we come in to eat dinner at 7, 8 o'clock, I'm exhausted. So actually then we might go and watch a movie, but I might struggle to keep my eyes open because I've got a killer day coming up tomorrow, and the conversations stop. And actually, if I don't make that concerted effort, you're right, we know better, because we touched on it a little bit before, didn't we? If we were coaching, we'd be saying to people, hey, so what are you doing? What plans are you making? How proactive are you being to make time for that? And I can't remember who it was when I was watching a TED talk. They talked about, what do you do to fill up your partner? I like this phrase, to fill them up. So what do you do to fill yourself up? And what do you do to fill them up? And what I realized when I heard this was, I'm doing a lot of things that fill me up, but wasn't doing a lot of things that filled up my family. And actually making the time, stepping back and saying, actually, some of the conversations you and I have had over the last 2 months that have kind of triggered these thoughts, which is the snapback effect that you talked about when we first launched this series. I don't want to snap back into just working, and yet here I am ramping up, working all these hours. You're ramping up your business,
Yeah.
Richard. This must resonate for you as well.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, it's never been, it's never been busier, and it's crazy. And, it's just this amazing opportunity we got. As you know, my parents live next door anyway, so it's wonderful to see them. But I've got my 3 grown-up children at home. A couple of them should be sort of finishing off university. One should be out doing something else at the moment, but they're all at home, and it's a wonderful, it's absolutely amazing opportunity. Yeah, I'm just missing the opportunity of sort of I need to be reminded to prioritize down. And I guess it's we are no better than anyone else. I absolutely, we're no better. We just get paid to sit and observe and provide some advice. And of course, it's very easy to be. Anybody can do that. To be quite frank, anybody can do what we do, and we are just human like everybody else. We forget these basic traps that actually at a heart we're selfish animals, and we concentrate on the things that we want to do. I'm wondering if there is a gender thing here as well, because I think men are more practiced at being selfish. And I don't know whether you think this is true, but I definitely get the feedback from my daughters and my wife. It's all right for you. You can concentrate on what you like doing.
Yeah.
And they sacrifice more for others than I do. And my personal, whatever test you take, whether it's Hogan, MBTI, SDI, whatever it might be, my preferences is around driving people-orientated person, and I give to people, and I want to be with people. And yet, I wonder whether there's a slight gender difference. What about your wife, for example?
Well, her natural instinct anyway is to nurture. So she nurtures the household. Actually, she nurtures everybody.
Yeah.
During this period, every Monday at 11:30, she has a FaceTime with my parents.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a daughter-in-law, right? Actually, having those conversations with my folks. Every day at 11 o'clock on Facebook for the last 105 days, she does an 11Zs where she just goes on and reaches out to people. She has 100+ people who come and join, and she just talks about how they are and what's going on. So her natural way of looking at the world is to do this. And actually, it was her idea that said to me, Brad, you're helping everybody else reconnect on these webinars. You talk about how to stay safe.
Oh, I'm hearing some wifely feedback, Brad.
Yeah, for sure. And it was done on beautifully, because it was done on a dog walk when everything's really relaxed, and I'm not sitting in my office and I'm getting all defensive about my space. And actually, I'm grateful for her, because what she highlighted was that in this wonderful moment where everybody is at home, the 2 people who aren't getting to spend as much time as they could is actually her and me. And although we're grateful, obviously, for the work, and I know you said before it's busier than ever, and I know it's been busy my end, and I am grateful for that, because if it wasn't, I'd be moaning to you. And worried, and I know enough people who are in that space of worry, that she says to me, come on, why don't we just stop? If you were coaching somebody and they wanted to spend more time with their partner, how would that conversation go? And when we talked about it, the way that conversation would go is we would encourage those people, those leaders, to make time proactively carve out space. And I looked at my diary, Richard, and what was so ironic was I still have a weekly time in my diary that's just for me. I have a 90-minute period that I change each week where I block out my calendar so no one can put anything in it. And it's just time where I think about the business. I do a bit of kind of thinking, some thought leadership, some concepts. There was no time in my diary for the person I love the most in the world.
Yeah.
So actually I said to her, do you know what? I'm loving what you're saying. What ideas are you thinking about? And so she found a way of linking a passion of ours, which is drinking wine. And we carve out now regularly. The last 2 weeks it's been working. 4 o'clock on a Friday, we both stop working. You know, she runs her own business. We stop working. We take one of the dogs out, the younger one, for a second walk. She researches a bottle of wine at the beginning of the week, picks it up, and we go out together for a walk. We drink this bottle of wine, we talk about it. She's done some research, so she tells me all about the grape and where it's from. And my palate isn't as sophisticated as hers, but I enjoy the conversation. And we come back and we're set for Friday because, you know, we've had a nice drink. I don't want to go back to work. And actually we make dinner together and then we watch a movie together, and it sets up the weekend, and it's something I look forward to.
Yeah.
You know,
that's fantastic. I mean, what I hear you say is the tip and the reminder is that something that your wife does, you know, religiously, you know, on a weekly basis, you know, having a call at 11:30 on this day with your in-laws, and then having her 11s with her people every single week, and then, you know, creating this wonderful opportunity for you to, at 4 o'clock, this is what we're going to do. The tip is we need to bake a process in and actually be a little bit more disciplined about stopping at certain times and prioritizing where we focus our attention. And I guess I hear all that, and it's what I would be talking to my clients about if they were saying the things to me. And I said, well, it's all about your process. Remember the results process relationship?
Yeah,
so
here we go.
Process, focus, lens down. This is what we got to do. How do we do, you know, and we make some commitments. So I hear that. So what's going to stop me doing it? How do I, you know, if I know that, okay, I buy that. And so what do I know? What else can I do
Do you know, Richard, part of it, I can only speak for me and then try and put myself in the position of if I was coaching someone with the same challenge.
Yeah.
And I know that the question I would throw straight out there is, when this lockdown is over and the world returns to something that looks different to now and different from before, but becomes the normal way of operating, what will you miss about being shut down? And you know, when you were talking before about this wonderful opportunity of having your 3 grown children at home with you, when is there ever going to be a time where you'll have 20-something kids at home with you, right, again?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's a gift.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And so I would ask someone, you know, so what would you regret afterwards? Because if you can look forward, you know, it's the leadership concept of, if we envision first and we work backwards from the vision, then you can breathe life into it. So the ideas will come, but what is it that you want to be feeling in 3 months' time? Do you want to look back and think, oh God, you know what? It's got busier now. Now I don't have that time. Yeah. And so it's that trigger for me is that way of, for how do we make sure that we don't get sucked into this trap? What's the trigger for what you want to feel?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So I've written 5 things down in our conversation, because this is really useful for me, and your wife has made it really useful for you. And I'm also thinking of all those wonderful managers and other folk out there in the world who are probably thinking a little bit, maybe this is resonating with them in their home lives, but also with their teams and their organizations. Because these sort of traps that we fall into resonate each day with every busy leader. Quite often I'm having conversations with people and say, oh God, my boss just came on the phone for the weekly update call, and all they did was talk at me. And, there wasn't any time for me. So the 5 things that I've written down is, I loved the first one. Number 1 is, I love that question. What do you do to fill up your partner or your colleague or your team member or your husband or your wife or your children? So what is it that you're giving them that fills them up? That's number 1. Number 2 is, be mindful of really where you focus your attention. In terms of, is it yourself? Is it others? Number 3 is, I've written this down really for myself, is stop being selfish. Focus on what's important for others as well as yourself. The fourth one is, put process in place, build some rules, build some structure. Leave your phone outside of the bedroom. Turn off your laptop at such and such a time. Go find out what bottle of wine Brad's wife has produced this week, and copy, and do it at 4 o'clock with wine. So put some process in place. And the final one is, I love that frame, is yours was, what will you regret with, at the end of lockdown, is, what would you regret if you don't do? Yeah. If you don't have this time again, what are you missing? What's the thing? What would you regret? So I think those 5 things are good, could be good sort of pause, frames for people to consider, not missing the opportunity with others.
And I think there's something in it, Richard, because if I reflect on all the webinars over the last 3 months, whether they're about working virtually, whether it's about leadership, leading virtually, or team members, or resilience, all the topics that have been hot topics, I don't believe I've ever, in any of those sessions, created a section on spending time with your loved ones. We've talked about getting rid of your Sky News app. We've talked about eat, move, sleep. We've talked about, mix up your schedule and have downtime. But I've never had a section on, how do you spend time with the people around you, the loved ones? And that's like a big learning for me, because it's that stop being selfish one that screams out at me instantly. Because no one gets to the end of their days and thinks, oh, I wish I'd have spent more time at work.
Yeah.
No one says that.
Totally. I can't remember if it was one of these podcasts that we were talking about with a friend I had who was a palliative nurse. Have you told?
No.
Wonderful lady. She passed away 14 months ago, 15 months ago, and she was 92.
Oh, wow.
And she was a palliative nurse for over 60 years of her life. So she talked about the privilege of helping people on the final yards of their life, and what a privilege it was. And she wrote a book, about the lessons that her wonderful patients had taught her. And the essence that just screamed out for me was, none of them said, in those last moments, I wish I worked a bit harder. Or I wish I had got that. I wish I'd spent my money on a better car, or I wish I had done this. I wish I had gone for the bigger job. They all said, I wish I reached out to my brother
Yeah.
and had the conversation that we know we should have had. Or I wish I hugged my kids more. Or I wish I said that to my mum. Or I wish I ran naked in the rain that day. You know, and that is such you know, your final point that you said on that list of 5 that I wrote out was, what would you regret? And that's that beautiful friend of mine who made that really clear. You know, don't miss out on these things. Another good friend of mine says, we're an awfully long time dead, right?
Right.
Now, you know, that's my belief. You know, others have very valid other thoughts about afterlife and this sort of thing, but we're a very long time dead. So how are we going to tread this earth, and what impact are we going to have? It's not going to be about I wrote an extra email on the Wednesday night and didn't have the conversation with my son.
Right, you know, so exactly, that's like the perfect example. You're sat down, maybe you're sat down watching a movie or something, and you know you're typing an email, and your son says, "Oh, hey, Dad," and you're like, "Just let me finish this."
Yeah, yeah, it's gone.
You're not.
Yeah,
He'll remember that you didn't have time for him,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you'll think, "Why didn't I stop and listen in that moment?"
Yeah, absolutely. So look, it feels like that brings us to you know, you can overdo these things, I think, and the point has been made for me. So you know, it feels like, but I'm curious because I'm a complete and utter novice with all these podcast things. How do we get some feedback from our you know, from our listener? You know, the one person who who has been listening into us rambling along like this. And maybe I would be really curious about getting some feedback from our listener, and also actually maybe there's a topic or a question that our listener would like us to ponder and chat about. I'd
Well,
love to
I
hear
think this
things.
is great, right? So most people don't leave feedback on Apple and Spotify, right? They listen quite passively to podcasts. I know one of my friends has told me that they listen to it when they bike ride in Dubai.
Yeah, really.
And another one listens to it when he goes out for his jogs. In fact, I was talking to him the other week, and he told me that his learning over this period is he wants to work less and earn less, and that's his learning.
Awesome.
Right? And we were smiling. He's Italian, and he was really touching in his kind of the emotional intuition. And he was
Yeah.
talking about we need to trust our intuition. I said to him, "So, Alessandro, you know, what's your intuition?" He said, "It's completely to work less and earn less."
Yeah.
And I said, "I love that. How's that working out?" He goes, "Well, I've got to convince the wife, but he's true to his path, right? He's an intuitive coach, and absolutely he will follow that through."
Yeah.
So my feeling on the feedback piece is actually we go out to people on LinkedIn, on social media. And maybe what we could also do is we could set up a little Gmail account, richandbrad@gmail, attach it to this podcast, and ask people to start sending in questions, maybe
Perfect.
for us to consider,
Yeah.
feedback on what they're listening to.
Yeah.
And we could then take some audience feedback on some of the future sessions that we run.
Yeah, I think that would be uber cool. It's great. I mean, it's very I don't know what I was quite expecting with these, but I'm enjoying it because I literally turn up and we just start talking, more or less. I mean, we have 5-minute chat before, and
Right.
we sort of say, and you say, "How are you?" Well, this is what's been happening. I said, "Well, that feels like the topic then. Let's go," and we're off. And is that okay for people? It's okay for me, and maybe that's good enough. But it would be interesting. I'll be really curious about what would other people, where are other people's curiosities? You know, maybe there's some thoughts we can share.
Well, I think let's garner the information off people. Let's get them to start feeding back in, and then we reflect and
Yeah.
react on the response to the feedback.
Perfect.
Because I think most people will always be polite when they're our friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right.
But if we put an email out and say just send in your thoughts and reflections, well, let's have them, and we'll see next week what comes in. I'll set something up this week, and we'll attach it to the pod, and we'll take it from there. Richard, you have yourself a lovely week.
Fantastic. And you, Brad,
Lovely.
great to talk to you. See
Always
you
a pleasure. See you next
Cheers.
time.
Bye.
Bye.